Okay. I was going to start just by kind of reviewing what we talked about yesterday in class. Um, we had a major eclipse. It was full moon in Scorpio over the weekend. And the full moon can be very emotional, and Scorpio energy can be very transformational and pretty intense. Scorpio is also a water sign. Anyway, it was either Sunday night or Monday. Um, I read an article written by a Vedic astrologer who was talking about a particular nakshatra, some type of particular star. I think it's called the Vedic star, that this particular eclipse was connected to. And it represents the not only the Vedic star, but the star of purpose. So it was going on to explain that the full moon in Scorpio was the time where Buddha was so emotionally distraught when he discovered um, how there was sickness, there was death, there was poverty, there was all this suffering that he had never been privy to witness before, growing up behind the palace walls and being amongst all of his riches. He was very protected and kept away from the people. So when he got old enough to get out into the village, he realized there was so much disparity, and he wanted to help, but he felt a little helpless. He renounced all of his riches. He went to go do a lot of spiritual discipline and practices, landed under a Bodhi tree at the age of 35. And for 49 days, he meditated until he became the awakened one or the enlightened one. So there's a pose called Siddhasana that we do not do very often. It's a sitting position. I led up to that yesterday after doing a lot of restorative poses. And I thought today we could work up to the same position, except in a yin way of doing it. I noticed yesterday when I was teaching in the studio that we were focused a little bit more on opening up the hips. But what I was seeing and witnessing with students was really, it wasn't just the hips, it was really the knees and the ankles that needed some openness. So we're going to do some poses that is going to open up the front side of the ankles. We're going to try to bring in more flexion for the knees to get them flexible and mobile. And that also helps to open up the quads even. So we'll work on these poses. We will do a couple hip openers too, to lead up towards Siddhasana. So we're going to start off. Well, shoot, where's my bolster? Have a bolster, Carlos. Now, you may have more of the square bolster. That's okay. This is the closest one I have, which is a round one. It works just as well. So what you're going to do is you're going to bring your left foot in first, and then your right foot in front of that. And then you're just going to gently lay over the prop with your palms rotated open. So I mentioned this a lot. When the palms are open, it allows the shoulder bones to roll back, which opens up the chest more, which in turn opens up the metaphysical heart. But back bends also improve our posture. And since Siddhasana is a seated position, we're going to want to have an erect spine. So just think about when you're sitting upright, there's a lot of things required. It requires a strong core, a strong back, an open heart, an open mind, open hips. And with open hips, we can't have too tight of quads or hamstrings. Otherwise, if we have ailments in any of these areas, if we're holding or hoarding a lot of stress or tension, it gets uncomfortable to sit. So set your intention to open up your body, to work your way towards this peak pose. And then also create your own personal intention for practicing with me today. You'll notice when your feet are placed in this manner, It opens up not just the external rotators of the hip, but the front side of the hips as the knees dip down towards the floor. Obviously, if you're feeling any type of pain or strain, you can stack toss pillows, blankets, or blocks under your knees. Let's go ahead and begin to become a little bit more engrossed in our breath. Diving into the breath so that we're taking it under our command. Breathing in and out fully. Now savor 7 more breaths. From completing the 7, stretch out your legs. And then point the toes on the inhale and flex through the ankles on the exhale. Pointing on the in-breath, flexing on the out-breath. One more round. And then take the feet a little wider, and this time the right foot will draw in towards the pubic bone first, and then your left foot will slide out in front of that. So you'll notice this alters what you may have been sensing before since we swapped the positioning. Take the reins of the breath to slow and calm any agitation in the mind or body. To invoke a calm sense of serenity within. Lounging, relaxing. It's hard to relax when you start to run away with a thought. So when you notice that you do, bring yourself back to the now. I'll savor 7 more breaths. Savoring is if you were holding a piece of a Hershey Kiss in your mouth. Instead of chomping or chewing it, you're just letting it sit there. Dissolve. To make it last. To make your inhale and exhale long lasting. Slowly begin to straighten out your legs again. This time, rotate your ankles. You need to get some of the stiffness out of the feet for Siddhasana. And then reverse those ankle rotations. And then you're going to bend your knees and you're going to take your feet as wide as the mat. And the windshield wipe twist is coming into play next. So you can drop the knees to one side as you breathe in. Swing them over to the other side in a slow manner as you breathe out. Inhaling to one. Exhaling to the other. Do one more to each. And then the next time you send the knees off to the left, you can roll to that side, push down through the right hand, and move that bolster away. We're going to come to tabletop. From a tabletop position, let's bring some pliability into the back, into the spine. So open up to cow. And exhale into cat. A few more rounds. Synchronizing with your breath. And then inhale, flat back. Exhale, curl the toes. Take downward facing dog. From Adho Mukha Svanasana and flipping yourself upside down, ground your hands and feet. And shine up through your seat. And then slowly stepping the feet forward. Softening your knees. Bowing down. And then nodding your head. Let the upper body gravitate lower. Your eyes can close. Even notice how heavy the cheeks begin to feel. And it's okay to leave the mouth slightly open. So tight hamstrings can pull on the low back. Tight hips can also pull on the low back. And that can be a problem when we're taking seated postures like Siddhasana.
So just remember, if you're ever wanting to sit and meditate, if a cross-legged position doesn't work for you, you don't have to worry about sitting cross-legged. You can always sit in furniture. You can sit in a chair with your feet firmly on the ground. Yesterday we were talking about different depictions of Buddha. Sometimes he's sitting in half lotus, full lotus, easy pose. Sometimes he's sitting in a chair with the feet firmly on the ground. Sometimes it's standing. Sometimes it's reclining. We always hear that saying, we're only as strong as our weakest link. Same thing regarding flexibility. This is why we want to open up all parts of the body. Now, on your next in-breath, root down to rise. You reach the arms up overhead. And then as you exhale, we're going right back in. But this time we're going to step the right foot back. And when you step the right foot back, lunge that front knee, heel toe the left foot over, bring that left hand to the inside, and you're going to stay lifted for now, being on palms or fist if that feels better for your body. And usually if we're being really active, I'll say pluck the back thigh up, but since we're doing yin, it's okay for it to drag a little bit. Now we'll go ahead and sink it thoroughly to the floor. And with the back toes curled under, go ahead and lift your head up. You're still sinking the hips. But then we're going to seal down by untucking the back toes and lowering down onto a prop. So for instance, if you needed that bolster, to kind of help bring the floor to you, you could use that. You may be able to surrender all the way down. And then at this point, if you want to go into low flying winged dragon, and I'm going to spin this way so that you can see the difference. I can be on the sole of the left foot, or I can let it wing away from the arm. And that's just allowing the inside of that left foot to peel away from the mat and to roll away from my midline. That may be wanted and pleasurable or not. So pick one of those foot positions to hang out in. When this pose starts to get intense, you may hear my breathing. I like to move into the Ujjayi breath. So it gives me something to meditate on, to go beyond the physical sensation. Slowly stack back up. And then we'll ground that left foot. We'll push into the hand so that we glide the hips back in order to bring the left knee back to join the other. All right, from here, we're coming right on down to a prone position with the forearms, separating the feet for Sphinx. Now you can lower the head if you prefer. You can also rest in prayer hands. Free up any attachments towards the thoughts streaming by. Consider for a moment times where you have sat to meditate and how you may discover that your spine eventually begins to slouch or slump. Sometimes that's due to weakness in the body. Sometimes it's due to getting lost in thought. Consider how the Buddha sat for 49 days under the Bodhi tree. I personally have never looked up a Bodhi tree. I don't know what it looks like, but I'm hoping there's something for him to use for back support. Think about how Jesus often went away from the multitudes to meditate for like 40 days at a time. Now we're going to move into a little bit of a flow. So when your hands come back, and not really under the shoulders, but kind of a little farther back than the chest, you're going to lift your hips off the floor, pick up the feet, open up to swan. This is a different version of swan. Exhale into extended child's pose. Inhale, we're sliding the hands back, lifting the knees, puffing up the chest. This is where we're really starting to stretch the ankles here. And then we'll go through that flow 2 more times. So drop the shins, extend your arms, rock up into swan, roll back into extended child's. Hands slide back, shins float up. Maybe incorporate the back bend. The back bend is not as important for this pose because it may be a lot just for the feet, okay? So don't worry about that second part. And then come down into child's. One more, inhale, rocking up to swan, bring your feet width. Exhaling back to child's. Inhaling into this ankle stretch. Because this is important for the feet if we're going to try to move into that Siddhasana. All right, we're moving back into the flow. Hands forward to take downward facing dog. From Adho Mukha Svanasana, lengthen through the back, create some space between each vertebra. Inhale, right foot's going to step through. Take your time with that. Sometimes from down dog, it's nice to go to table first and then step it in. We're going to heel toe the right foot over, grounding on palms or fists. Coming into this type of lunge. Eventually sinking the back knee, lifting the chin. Couple breaths here. exhale, release the back foot. Maybe bring that prop in front of you. It can be blocks or bolster. And then if you want to wing that right knee away, you can. So again, showing you from a different angle. The foot can be flat, knee kind of tucked, or it can spill out. Patience here. And let's ground that right foot, stack onto the hands, build up. And we're sliding back to table. Curling the toes under, launching up and back to downward facing dog. Now we're going to move towards the other swan that's like pigeon. So if you need deer pose, take deer pose instead, please. So we're going to bring that left shin now to the front behind the hands. Now deer is if you're just to sit down on that outer thigh and slide the right knee up, you can just pour over like this. And so if you choose to do this style, you're not going to do mermaid pose, okay? If you decide, okay, today I think this swan's going to work, we're actually going to walk the hands over towards the foot today, and we're leaning over. Similar to deer, because deer has that ankle as well. And you can be stacked on your arms, or you can spill down more if your body allows. So if you're doing this swan or pigeon variation with me, you'll discover when you come over and pour over the foot versus the calf, it's going to stretch out the ankle. It's going to also bring additional flexion to the knee. Now you get to be reflective or contemplative, practicing some sort of mindfulness. slowly come up. Unless you're doing deer. Okay, if you're in deer, just stay there unless you need to exit. So when we're folded over that foot and we're walking the hands in, it actually puts us at a great angle to take mermaid. So this is where I'm saying this pose can help to open up the quads. It will work the knee. And I would suggest taking the big toe side of the foot so that as you're drawing it in, it's coming more to the outer thigh versus flopping over towards the tailbone. If it flops over, you're not going to get all the quads the right way. And you'll feel that difference if you just experiment. All right, we'll release that. Come out of deer to plant the palms, and then we're curl the back toes and take that downward facing dog again. From downward facing dog, let's bring that right shin out in front. Flopping to the right thigh, left knee up if you need deer. Or taking that pigeon and squaring off through the hips. Walking and leaning over the right heel. Taking it to your degree of flexibility. If you're in deer, stay. And otherwise, we'll come up staying in that little rotation, picking up the back foot. And you can use a strap to get the foot too. All right, we're gonna release mermaid. And if you're still here in deer, that's great, because if you were in mermaid, I would have you lean to that right hip anyway to bring the left foot around. And the soles of the feet are gonna meet and glide a little closer. The bolster can be used to stack the arms on or head on. So it depends on, you're gonna get sensation no matter where you are. You know, it may take a little longer if you're higher up versus going lower, but definitely move to your edge. Slowly back away from this. Keep that bolster close by, because we're gonna extend the left leg out for like a half butterfly. Same thing. You can fold forward like this, using that bolster as a prop. Of course, it can be used different ways. Inhale, slowly come up. We'll swap sides. Right knee lifts, that leg extends, left knee bends, open up from the hip. Right knee can be here in the half butterfly. You could be here. You could even go a little lower if that's available. All right, when you come up, we're going to try that Siddhasana now. So if you turn, I'll try to mirror you. We'll have the legs splayed out to start with. And we'll bring the left foot in and then the right foot in front of that. This is the more gentle way to do it. The second step, stack the front foot on the one closest to you, where the ankles or heels are lining up. This is the second way of doing it. Third way, tucking the toes of both feet in between the calves and thighs. You can tell when you tuck the feet in, like, ooh, that's a lot of work for the knees, and it's a lot of work in the front of the ankles. Which is probably why people don't sit this way to meditate very often. Okay. Now, slide it back out. Bring the right foot in first, and then the left. As the water's here. This may feel more available, more familiar, more comfortable, or it may feel less familiar and less comfortable. Pick up that front foot, stack it on to the other. Is that accessible? Right, it's not as extreme as half lotus, because think the more extreme variation is where the foot's on top of the lap. That's even more work for the knee. And then if you want to try that third phase, toes are tucking in between the flesh. And you can tell how you need a strong core, strong back for good posture. Open heart, open mind is something we're developing through our meditation practice. And then again, this is not going to be comfortable for everyone. We're going to do it one last round. So bring your bolster in and sit right on the edge of it. Now this is what I prefer to do. I just like the easy one. The easy, simple, one foot in, then the other one in front of that. I like sitting up so the knees naturally kind of elongate down. And you'll notice when you're sitting on the edge of that prop, it gives you this nice neutral placement of the pelvis where it's not tucking, it's not protruding, it's just kind of in the middle. And it honors the natural sway of the low back. So if you wanted to sit and meditate, this way you can. And you always have the option to sit and meditate versus taking Shavasana. In Shavasana today, I would like us to cater to the legs. With that being said, since we worked the feet a lot, maybe you want them to be higher in elevation. Maybe you want them lined up on a chair. You can do that with Stonehenge. And this is another thing that I like to do, is place the bolster just under the knees where there's less weight in the feet, especially with the square or rectangular one that you can stand up underneath the knees. And just prepare to take rest. Continue your mindful contemplative work by honing in and focusing on one thing. Maybe it's just gazing into your mind's eye. Perhaps just bearing witness to the breath. Maybe reciting a mantra or affirmation repetitively in your mind, or playing some soft music to listen to. Try to drop the weight of the world from the shoulders. Try to drop all the worry in the mind. Try to drop all the masks that you wear in life. Try to drop all the labels of identity that people have placed on you or you have placed upon yourself. Strip away all the layers of your being to come to the essence of who you really are. To understand, to realize we are a part of the mass oneness. want you to place your hands lightly on your belly. Since we're talking about Prince Siddhartha and Buddha today, I want you to just picture in your mind's eye, again, different depictions of the Buddha you've seen. The ones where he's long and lean, others where he's got more weight, more of a belly. So I want you to create your own Buddha belly each time you inhale. Let it grow, let it expand, let it balloon. Push all the air out of the lungs as you breathe out, even pulling and retracting the navel in. And then let that go. Create that Buddha belly again. Think of your lungs as being kind of like an accordion, right? Pulls the air in to create the sound. And then that sound gets released as you're pushing it out of the instrument. Expand, letting the air in. Push it out and pierce the navel in. Three more medicinal breaths. Inhale, stretch the arms overhead. Pick up your feet, stretch up through your toes. As you exhale, hug the knees in. And we usually do this almost every practice, and it's taken us this long to get here. So feel free to rock or sway or just be static and still, whatever form you fancy. And then rolling over to one side to climb back up to take a seat. And we're going to end in the easy Siddhasana. But that's my habit, and you probably went into your habit, so swap the feet. I go through phases where I remind us to do that at the end of practice, and I haven't done that in a while, so let's sit upright. Close the eyes. Join your palms together at your heart. I hope you feel better in your body. I hope you feel better in your mind. I hope you have invoked a calm sense of serenity within. And we take this centerness with us as we depart. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Namaste.